Welcome to a chilling world where nightmares creep into reality. Tonight we will share 3 horrifying true stories that will challenge your perceptions of what is real. Each story is a testament to the unknown, the unexplainable, and the terror that can lurk in our everyday lives. So dim the lights, settle in, and prepare for an unsettling journey that you may not soon forget. Our first story takes us to a seemingly ordinary house, nestled at the end of a quiet street in a small town. The Johnson family moved in, excited about their new beginnings. However, strange occurrences soon disrupted their peace. Objects would move on their own. Whispers echoed in the dark, and cold spots chilled the air, leaving them in constant fear. One night, as the family gathered in the living room, they heard a soft voice calling for help. The children, curious and innocent, ran toward the sound. What they discovered would haunt them forever. The voice led them to the basement, where they found a dusty old trunk. As they opened it, a rush of cold air enveloped them, and the voice grew louder, more desperate. They had awakened something that should have remained undisturbed. From that night on, the disturbances escalated. Furniture was rearranged overnight, and the family began experiencing terrifying nightmares. They sought the help of a paranormal investigator, who uncovered the house's tragic history and untold story of sorrow and loss that had never been put to rest. Despite their efforts, the hauntings continued. The family finally decided to move away, leaving behind their dream home, forever haunted by the memories of that terrifying experience. Our second story follows Sarah, a college student who lived alone in a small apartment. One night she returned home after a long day of classes, exhausted but relieved to be in her safe space. However, as she settled into bed, she felt a presence in the room. At first, she brushed it off as exhaustion playing tricks on her mind. But the feeling persisted, growing stronger each night. One evening, she decided to confront her fears and stayed awake, determined to discover the source of the disturbance. Hours passed, and as the clock struck midnight, she heard soft whispers. The words were indistinguishable, but the tone was unmistakably sinister. Suddenly, the shadow materialized in front of her, a dark figure with no discernible features. Frozen in terror, she could only watch as the figure approached her. With every step, the air grew colder, and an overwhelming sense of dread filled the room. Just as it reached her, she let out a scream, and the figure vanished, leaving her alone in the dark. After that night, Sarah moved out, vowing never to live alone again. The shadow man may have left her, but the terror of that encounter lingered long after she locked the door behind her. Our final story centers around a small town woman named Claire, who received an unsettling phone call one fateful night. The call came from an unknown number, and against her better judgment, she answered. On the other end, a distorted voice whispered her name, sending chills down her spine. She thought it was a prank, but when the caller accurately described her surroundings, her heart raced with fear. Frantically, she hung up and called the police. But before they could respond, the calls continued, each time revealing more details about her life. Claire was no longer safe in her own home. Desperate and alone, she decided to confront her fears. That night, she left her lights off and sat quietly in the dark, waiting for the call. And when it came, she answered. The voice on the other end laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the silence. "I see you," it said. In that moment, she realized the calls were not just a prank, someone was watching her. With fear surging through her veins, she ran to the door, only to find it locked. The whispers grew louder, taunting her as she frantically searched for a way out. Just as she thought all hope was lost, the police arrived, responding to her previous call. But the calls didn't stop. Even after the police reassured her, the voice returned, always a breath away from her ear, reminding her that she was never truly alone. These stories remind us that the line between reality and horror is often blurred. What lurks in the shadows may not be just a figment of our imagination, but something more sinister. Always be vigilant, for you never know what might be watching you from the dark.